Welcome to the Special Forces in World War II podcast, transmitting on this frequency. This broadcast is your dedicated channel for comprehensive intelligence regarding World War II Special Forces operations. Our transmissions encompass in-depth analysis of their strategic maneuvers, cutting-edge equipment, illustrious biographies, and an array of pertinent subjects. The orchestration of these transmissions is executed by the expert team of the Special Forces in World War II website, a squad deeply immersed in the historical theatre. For further insights, visual aids, and captured moments frozen in time, navigate to our virtual headquarters at worldwar2-soft.com. Your immersion into the front lines of knowledge awaits. Over and out. Welcome back to another episode of the Special Forces in World War II podcast, where we explore the bold, the daring, and the extraordinary stories, tactics, and equipment of the special and specialized forces whose actions helped shape the outcome of the Second World War. I am your host, Michael Wyers. In the early hours of June 6, 1944, the Allies launched the largest seaborne invasion in history. 5 divisions come ashore across the beaches of Normandy. On the far eastern flank, at Sword Beach, land the British, and through the darkness before them, the 6th Airborne Division drops from the sky to seize the bridges over the Caen Canal and the River Orne, and to storm the coastal battery at Merville. Their task is to guard the invasion's left flank and to hold it until help arrives. That help is the Commandos of 1st Special Service Brigade, under Brigadier the Lord Lovat. In our last episode, we followed the brigade as a whole, from the beaches inland to the bridges, where Lovat's men crossed the Orne and joined the airborne troops on the high ground beyond. That was the story of the brigade together, on the longest of days. Now we go back, and we follow the Commandos, one unit at a time, through that same day, and the days that follow. For behind the single sweep of the brigade's advance stand 4 separate units, each with its own road to the ridge, and each road worth the walking on its own. In this episode, we follow 2 of them. First, number 4, Commando. We land with them on Sword Beach into a storm of fire alongside the French troops of Capitaine de corvette Kieffer, who set foot on their own soil for the first time in 4 years. We fight through the fortifications of Ouistreham, casemate by casemate, to the guns at the mouth of the Orne, and we march the long road under sniper and mortar fire, more than 14 kilometres, to cross the bridges, last of all the brigade, as night falls on June 6th. Then we hold the ridge with them, through the German counterattacks of the days that follow. Then we turn back to the morning of June 7th and to number 3 Commando. Held on D-Day to guard a divisional headquarters while the battle moved on without them, they are sent now against the Merville guns, silenced by the paratroopers a day before and speaking again. We follow them to the battery and to the cost of quieting it a second time. And we follow them onto the ridge, where on June 8th, the fighting reaches its hardest pitch as the Germans throw fresh divisions against the brigade to drive it off the high ground and roll up the flank of the invasion. Both threads meet on the same ground, the high ground east of the Orne, around the villages of Amfreville, Le Plain, and Hauge. This is the story of how the Commandos held. The record kept these men waiting a long time. It is time to hear from them. So let's start at the beginning. Brigadier the Lord Lovat gives up command of number 4 Commando in 1943. His successor is Lieutenant Colonel Robert Dawson. Dawson holds to the same training philosophy. For the next 18 months, the unit works through hard and varied exercises, yet a frustration persists. Raid after raid is cancelled before it can be mounted. 3 troops do sea action. They join the Manacle and Hardtack program of raids against the coast of occupied Europe. The results are consistently disappointing. Weather intervenes, navigation fails, or the intended targets never appear to be ambushed. As conditions improve and greater success seems near, the whole program is shut down. Brigadier Laycock orders the small raids abandoned. He judges that they prompt the enemy to reinforce his coastal positions. That tendency can only work against Allied interests in the longer term. The 18 months without sustained operations do not leave No. 4 Commando weakened. Throughout the period, the unit supplies its share of officers and non-commissioned officers to other Commando formations. What it keeps is a depth of collective character and institutional knowledge that more than compensates. It stands apart from those Commando units that have fought in the Mediterranean but paid in heavy casualties. One major exercise in early 1944 sets out to prove a hard capability. The unit must land from small craft on a hostile coast. The Cornish coastline is chosen. It is hostile in both senses. Steep cliffs must be scaled before the raiding party can engage its target. Here, the target is a Home Guard unit playing the enemy. Brigadier Durnford Slater arranges an audience of senior commanders and a film crew. Preliminary rehearsals go well. Several approaches are tested and a method is agreed. On the day of the final rehearsal, the weather turns. Overcast skies, a stiff wind, and a heavy swell close in. Senior officers are already arriving from across the country for the next day's demonstration. C and D troops go ahead, regardless. In the rough water at the foot of the cliffs, the swell swamps one boat. 2 men are lost. Dawson holds his reservations. Even so, the demonstration proceeds the following day in marginally better conditions. It is judged a considerable success. The Cornwall performance and No. 4 Commando's record draw an early proposal. The unit should attack the Hulgate Battery. 6 170mm guns there can cover Sword Beach and much of Juneau. This is a graver threat to the invasion than the Merville Battery, which 9th Parachute Battalion must destroy in the early hours of June 6, 1944. The idea is set aside. Commando units are in short supply for tasks inside the immediate invasion area. The Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy are confident they can neutralize Hulgate by air and naval gunfire, so the battery attack is retained only as a contingency. It is designated Operation Frog and assigned to the Afloat Reserve, No. 46 Royal Marine Commando. A second proposed operation is similarly downgraded. Operation Deer is an attack on the Benneville Battery and its 4 French 155mm guns. No. 4 Commando's task on D-Day is a different one. The unit forms part of 1st Special Service Brigade. For the landing and the operation that follows, it comes under 3rd Infantry Division. Dawson is to capture the small port of Ouistreham. It lies about 1.6 kilometres east of Sword Beach. The task mirrors the flank clearance underway further west. There, numbers 47, 48, and 41 Royal Marine Commandos do similar work. Once Ouistreham is cleared, Dawson is to march his men at speed to the bridge over the Caen Canal at Bénouville. There he is to rejoin the brigade east of the River Orne. Dawson has his objective. The small port of Ouistreham must fall, and fall quickly. His men cannot linger there. The brigade needs them east of the River Orne before the day is out. Yet Ouistreham is no undefended harbour. The Germans hold it, and they have held it for years. The same enemy that faces 3rd Infantry Division across the sword beaches, waits inside the port. Their work there begins with a single lesson, drawn from a raid 2 years before. The Germans learn one lesson from Dieppe, above all, concrete works. They begin building defences to a system. The aim is to deny the Allies every port on the Channel coast, large and small. Deny the ports, the German command believes, and the invasion must fail. Their reasoning is plain. The Allies cannot sustain a force of this size across open beaches. Ouistreham becomes a Stützpunkt, a fortified strongpoint, long before the Atlantic Wall reaches its final form. Pillboxes, bunkers, and cupolas rise across the port. The defenders set gun batteries into concrete pits in the sand dunes, sited to dominate the sea approaches. Work goes on all along the Normandy coast. Widerstandsnester, resistance nests of every size, take shape. Ouistreham's defences thicken month by month. More mines go into the ground. A fire control tower goes up. Engineers dig an anti-tank ditch. The port lies within the sector of Oberst Krug and his infantry regiment, 736. Krug's command post sits on the northern slopes of the Perrier-Bouville Ridge. The Allies codename this position Hillman. From it, Krug can watch the port and much of its defensive layout. Close support for the garrison comes from the slim reserve of the 716th Infantry Division. That reserve means infantry counterattacks, backed by a small number of Sturmgeschütze, assault guns. General Major Wilhelm Richter commands the division. The Ouistreham defences rest on two principal strongpoints. Coastal infantry of the 2nd Company, 1st Battalion, Infantry Regiment 736, man them. The first is Widerstandsnest 8. It covers the entrance to the port and mounts two 50mm anti-tank guns. The second is Widerstandsnest 10. It stands near the casino in the eastern outskirts of the town. It mounts two 75mm anti-tank guns. Between the two lie the open gun pits of the 4th Battery, Artillery Regiment 1716. By June 6, 1944, those pits stand empty. Persistent Allied bombing has driven the gunners out. The battery's 4 155mm guns now sit in the casemates of Widerstandsnest 12. The Allies codename this position Daimler. It lies roughly 1.6 kilometres inland. Close by, at Widerstandsnest 13, stand the headquarters of the 1st Battalion and an infantry company. The Allies codename this position Soule. Across the river mouth lies a 3rd platoon position, Widerstandsnest 7. It forms part of the port's outer defences. It mounts a captured 47mm gun and 3 obsolescent 50mm guns. In the southern part of Ouistreham stands a 4th platoon position, Widerstandsnest 9. It has no anti-tank guns. It can call instead on mortar fire in support. This, then, is the position the Allies must break. Strongpoint upon strongpoint, wired and mined, backed by guns and a garrison dug into concrete. Allied planners study it in the weeks before the landings. Every fresh report deepens the same concern. The port is held in strength, and that strength is growing. The intelligence picture fills out in the weeks before June 6, 1944. It reveals a hard truth. The enemy holding Ouistreham's defences outnumber what an unreinforced army commando of standard establishment can reasonably expect to overcome. The answer is reinforcement. 2 more troops join from No. 10 into Allied Commando. No. 1 troop comes under Captain Kieffer. No. 2 troop comes under Captain Lofi. Dawson speaks fluent French. He holds a real affinity for French culture. A relationship that might have been awkward works naturally from the outset. The 2 French troops stay formally part of Number 10 Inter-Allied Commando. Even so, they are permitted to wear Number 4 Commando flashes. Capitaine de corvette Philippe Kieffer becomes the senior French officer. He is Dawson's effective second-in-command for the French element. His place as troop commander passes to Vauche. Dawson's assessment of his French troops is unambiguous. They are tough, self-reliant soldiers. They are quick in action and genuinely brave. A degree of mutual respect has already grown between the two elements before June 6, 1944. The plan sets out the landing order. The Commandos' headquarters, 7 assault troops, and 1 support troop are to land behind the 2nd Battalion, East Yorkshire Regiment. The 2 French troops, with the Commandos' K-gun sections in support, are timed to touch down at 7:55 on Queen Red, just east of Strongpoint Cod. The French embark at Warsash. They travel aboard Landing Craft Infantry 527 and Landing Craft Infantry 523 and land directly from these craft. The rest of the Commando disembarks into Landing Craft Assault from its 2 landing ships infantry, HMS Princess Astrid and HMS Maid of Orleans. The planners assume the beach will be in reasonable order. Once ashore, the unit crosses the mine dunes by cleared routes. It reaches its assembly area near a row of largely demolished holiday villas. The villas stand beside the main coast road, roughly 200 meters inland. From the assembly area, the unit moves east along the coastal road toward Ouistreham. The French troops attack Ouistreham Nest 10. The 5 British assault troops clear the main part of the town. Their objectives include Ouistreham Nest 8 and the fire control tower. The area around the sea locks falls to the 5th Assault Regiment, Royal Engineers. So does the infantry position at Ouistreham Nest 7. Fire support on the Ouistreham defences comes from the sea. The cruiser HMS Frobisher brings her 7 7.5-inch guns to bear. HMS Danae, with 5 6-inch guns, engages the Daimler and Sole positions. Sundry destroyers and gun-armed landing craft add to the weight of fire. Dawson's reasoning for the French objectives is precise. Ouistreham Nest 10 is a target within their own competence. They can take it under their own direction. The battery that Number 4 Commando must attack is another matter. Its layout is complex. It would be difficult to assault alongside troops speaking a different language, above all on an operation where none of them have yet worked together. On this first operation, Dawson judges giving the French their own distinct targets is the right way to begin. The plan is set. Now, the men must live it out. Sleep comes hard to most of them. Number 4, Commando's medical officer describes the night. The wind howls. Rain drives in vicious squalls. Over the intercom, the ship's captain makes a grim remark. The Allied High Command must be counting heavily on surprise. Surely no German will believe that even Englishmen are foolish enough to invade on a night like this. At 3:30, the invasion fleet lies in the shelter of the broad Bay de Seine. The crew rouse the Commandos from a fitful rest. Those who can face food make their way to the galley. At nautical twilight, the landing craft flotilla passes the naval gun line. Lord Lovat watches the cruiser HMS Frobisher take position. She lies alongside the battleships HMS Warspite and HMS Ramillies on the port quarter. The battleship's turrets light the dawn with a yellow glare. Their guns hurl shells of up to a ton into the enemy batteries. Number 4. Commando leads the landing craft of 1st Special Service Brigade. It comes in at roughly the same time as Number 41, Royal Marine Commando. Aboard Landing Craft Infantry 523, the French Commandos sight France at 6 o'clock. After 4 years away, they see their homeland again. The moment is intensely emotional. No one has cleared the beach obstacles before the second wave comes in. Sub-Lieutenant Berry commands Landing Craft Infantry 523. He counts roughly 6 rows of stakes and tripods in the water. Captured shells, converted into mines, sit fixed to their tops. Wire and chain run between them. Berry judges this a likely one-way trip for his craft. He bounces off the obstacles and drives in at full speed. Landing Craft Infantry 523 runs well up onto the beach. Landing Craft Infantry 527 fares worse. Her propellers foul an obstacle and a shell damages her ramp. Her French commandos go over the side on scrambling nets. They race to catch the men from 523 who land dry. By roughly 7:55, 177 men are ashore. They are 171 men of the 2 French troops, with 6 British radio operators and medics. They step onto the beach to find nearly every enemy position active. Artillery shells and mortar bombs burst across the sand. High-velocity rifle fire and Spandau machine gun fire cut through the smoke. Through it, the commandos run for the cover of the dunes. The main body of No. 4 Commando touches down at 8:20. The situation is little better. The brigade's post-operational report records the assault troops pinned down. Intense machine gun and mortar fire pours from the strongpoint at the back of the beach. The Allies codename it COD. The Germans know it as Widerstands Nest 20. Some commandos are still in the water, standing in roughly 60 centimeters of it. Mortar bombs fall among the landing craft assault as they ground. The commando takes heavy casualties in the landing. Among them is Lieutenant Colonel Dawson, wounded in the leg. No support can be expected from 8th Infantry Brigade. C Troop No. 4 Commando pushes past the men pinned at the water's edge. It engages the slit trenches and pillboxes at the back of the beach, then breaks out onto the main road. Crossing the same ground, the commandos are shocked by what they find. They wade through the bodies of 2nd Battalion East Yorkshire Regiment soldiers killed in the initial assault. Elements of the East Yorkshires are clearly fighting into strongpoint COD, but what the commandos see as they sprint across the fire-swept sand are infantry scraping holes in the beach. Léon Gautier describes the weight his men carry. 4 days of food and ammunition fill a pack of 30 to 35 kilograms. They leave the packs at the assembly area to collect later. Of the 177 who land first, 114 reach the assembly area. The rest of the commando begins to arrive. Dawson uses the moment to reconnoiter the route toward Ouistreham. He also sets out to find the headquarters of 2nd Battalion, East Yorkshire Regiment. He returns with his face a mask of blood and in no good mood. His adjutant, Donald Gilchrist, is waiting. Dawson demands to know what he is doing. Gilchrist opens his mouth to say that no order to move has come. Dawson tells him to move. Gilchrist runs to the French troops and screams at them to go. He urges them on in a version of French all his own. To a man, the troops take his cry for the Arabic word for God. They stare at him in amazement, then obey and move off toward their objectives. As they pass, the wounded Dawson tells them to go ahead. The commando is counting on them. Dawson now carries a leg wound and a head wound. He hands command briefly to his second-in-command, Major Mende, while medics dress his wounds. He returns to his unit the moment they are done. He will leave only when ordered into the medical chain. Crossing the beach costs the British element of the commando roughly 40 casualties. The artillery forward observation officers and the naval forward officer bombardment are hit during the landing or in getting off the beach. Once the prearranged fire plan ends, the commando can call for no support. The French troops move off toward Ouistreham. Their orders are clear. 2 strongpoints, 2 troops, each with its own task. Lofi's 8 troop leads along the coastal road. Kieffer's 1 troop follows behind. Ahead of them lies the town, and the enemy still holding it in strength. The beach has already cost them dearly. The fight for Ouistreham has not yet begun. Leading the advance along the coastal road is French 8 Troop under Lieutenant Lofi. Half a section of Vickers K guns moves with them. Their objective is Ouistreham Nest 18. It lies roughly 640 meters to the east. The Germans added it late to the Atlantic Wall. It exists to cover the beach between the Casino strongpoint, Ouistreham Nest 10, and Cod, Ouistreham Nest 20. Lofi orders the advance, with Hulot's section at the head. Mortar fire has already bracketed the troop. Now they must cross a minefield to reach the grounds of a large house. Hulot reaches it and takes it, clearing it room by room. A heavy artillery barrage then falls on the position. Shells strike the house directly. Even so, Lofi records that progress soon becomes rapid. The Frenchmen find several Turbruckstender, the one-man concrete fighting pits, abandoned by their machine gun crews. It is proof of the naval bombardment's effect. Resistance stiffens as the troop closes on the town. Heavy harassing fire meets them, from snipers and machine guns in the houses. A gendarme gives invaluable help now. He is a member of the local resistance. He guides the leading troops around the enemy strongpoints rather than through them. The men enter the outskirts of Ouistreham. They skirt the obstacles the Germans have placed at the entrance to River Orne. Notices are fixed to the walls of the villas. They read Achtung Minen, German for beware of mines. As the troop closes on the strongpoint, a mortar breaks its silence. A bomb drops on Hulot's section, wounding several men, Hulot among them. Lofi gets the wounded under cover. He orders Bagot's section to take over the advance. Machine gun fire meets them near the objective. 4 scouts are wounded, though lightly. The men take up positions in the ruined buildings around the objective. From there, they can cover a complex of carefully concealed trenches. At its center stands a large blockhouse entirely intact. The attack on Ouistreham Nest 18 opens as a firefight. From the wrecked buildings, the Commandos drive the German trench defenders to ground. Lofi calls it a few lucky shots. The pillbox withstands everything. Rounds from the projector, infantry, anti-tank strike the concrete and do nothing at all. The Germans leave their positions in a series of brave counterattacks. Lofi commits his reserve to his right flank. At the cost of several casualties, he drives the enemy off each time. The task grows harder as the Vickers K guns turn unreliable. Carbon residue builds up in their working parts. The position holds. The heavy concrete casemates and troop shelters have survived the bombardment. They are beyond the reach of a lightly armed troop already cut down on the beach and the approach. In time, elements of 2nd Battalion, East Yorkshire Regiment, take over the task of masking the isolated position. Its garrison surrenders soon after. Meanwhile, the depleted 1 troop under Kieffer presses on along the coastal road. Roughly 40 minutes after landing, it reaches the outskirts of Ouistreham. Kieffer leads the troop north, up a side street, toward the rear of the Casino strongpoint, Ouistreham Nest 10. The British element of the Commando pushes on into the town. A concrete anti-tank wall blocks the side road. It stands roughly 2.1 meters high, some 46 meters from the Casino perimeter. In the middle of the wall is a gap, wide enough for 1 man at a time. The troop advances along the pavements on either side, in the shelter of the wall. The German defenders cannot see them coming. They reach the wall. A quick movement through the gap, a dispersal down each side, exactly as planned. The troops' strength is down by a third. Its firepower is not. The automatic weapons of the dead and wounded now sit in the hands of men who carried only rifles until this moment. The troop spreads evenly on both sides of the street. Each side holds 2 Bren guns, 4 Thompson submachine guns, and 1 flamethrower. Their orders are to bring fire onto the embrasures of the strongpoint, now only 40 meters away. The attack opens. The troops' projector, infantry anti-tank, engages a 20mm anti-aircraft position and the bunker. A lucky hit near an embrasure sends splinters into the casemate. The effect on the occupants is devastating. But the fire position is spotted. A gun from a strongpoint further east engages it with high explosive. The building begins to collapse around them. The Commandos abandon it. Now a local man joins Kieffer's men. He is Marcel Lefebvre, a veteran of the Great War. He takes up a rifle. He tells them where the German telephone cables are buried. 8 kilograms of plastic explosive go down, and the cables are cut. The act does much to break the defenders' will. It cuts them from their chain of command and denies them the ability to call for artillery. A stalemate is developing, much as at Widerstands Nest 18. Kieffer weighs the costly prospect of a direct assault. Then his British radio operator, listening to the 8th Infantry Brigade net, brings word. The surviving amphibious duplex drive tanks are off the beach. Kieffer and his Batman retrace their steps at once, back to the minefield breaches behind Queen Red. There, they persuade a squadron of the 13th/18th Royal Hussars to lend them a tank. Kieffer returns to the casino at 09:25, riding on the engine decks. Keeping the wall as cover, Kieffer takes the tank through an adjacent courtyard. He sets it up in front of the casino. Under his direction, it fires its first 2 shells straight into the building. 2 of the guns fall silent. At that moment, a rifle bullet wounds Kieffer in the right arm. He climbs down and directs the tank's fire from 5 meters back, behind a wall, using hand signals. The tank engages every German position in turn. The machine gun fire falls away. By 9:55, Kieffer judges the enemy's fire reduced enough. He orders sections forward on both the left and right flanks. Resistance is fiercest on the right. Along the line, Lardenois and his section take. It comes from a water tower firing on the flank. Kieffer has his arm bandaged. He remounts the tank and turns it to face the water tower at a range of roughly 100 meters. 4 shells silence it. The section on the right moves forward and clears the ground. Lantenier brings back the first 11 prisoners. 3 or 4 of them are Poles. As the escort takes them back, one throws a grenade. It lightly wounds 2 of Kieffer's men. The Commandos open fire at once, and 3 of the prisoners are killed. Lord Lovat's report sums up the action at the casino. Heavy casualties fall on the enemy, who fight from strong fortifications and carefully camouflaged blockhouses. The concrete gun emplacements survive the air and naval bombardment in good order. Severe fighting takes place before the position finally becomes untenable and a number of the garrison surrender. When the fighting ends, medical orderlies from both sides work side by side, tending the wounded. The cost to one troop is all 5 of its officers and 23 of its men. While the French fight through their strong points, the main body of No. 4 Commando has its own task. Its objective lies at the mouth of the river and the canal. There stand the casemates and gun pits of the coastal battery. This is the Commando's true prize. Its guns can range the invasion beaches. The main body has come ashore behind the French at 8:20. Now, its advance begins in earnest. The main body of No. 4 Commando advances along the coastal road into the ruins of Ouistreham. The town has been bombed repeatedly in the weeks before June 6, 1944. The preliminary bombardment has shelled it again. The Germans have added to the ruin themselves, clearing their fields of fire. The central and seaward parts of the town lie largely destroyed. The Commando's objective is the network of gun pits and casemates covering the mouth of the river and the canal. The order of march follows the road the French troops have taken. C Troop leads, then D, A, E, and F troops. Lieutenant Nivet Carr's B Troop, the support troop, brings up the rear. Its 3-inch mortars peel off to prepare fire support for the attacks ahead. C Troop, with another duplex drive tank in support, makes good progress along the road. Shell and mortar fire strikes the length of the column throughout the advance. Wounded men are left in the flanking ditches to be collected by medics following behind. The medical officer, Doc Patterson, has set up a regimental aid post near the assembly area in the cover of ruins and stacked Bergen rucksacks. A steady flow of wounded reaches him from across the brigade. He stabilizes them and sends them back across the dunes to the beach for evacuation. The dead are covered and left for 101st Beach Group to bury in temporary cemeteries by the shore. C and D troops take fire positions in the ruined buildings. They open the firefight that is to cover the approach of the last 3 troops. Bill Bidmead looks out from an upper room over the battery position. At its center stands an observation and fire control tower some 18 meters high. The pre-D-Day briefing has promised it will be a pile of rubble. It is standing. German soldiers throw grenades from the top at commandos moving into their assault positions. The K-guns open up and subdue the grenade throwers. Still, the fire control tower overlooks everything. The Commando's first major obstacle is the anti-tank ditch. Barbed wire protects it. Machine gun and mortar fire covers it. Casualties are certain. The aluminium ladder D Troop has carried for the crossing is gone, destroyed on the beach by an exploding shell, along with the men carrying it. Captain Pat Porteous finds the problem has solved itself. The Germans have left planks bridging the ditch for their own use. The combined fire of the tank and C Troop suppresses the enemy long enough for D Troop to cross. The tank can go no further. It gives fire support at longer range, now without a commander directing it in person. With D Troop inside the perimeter, it covers E and F troops as they cross in turn. They begin clearing the casemates, bunkers, and shelters. The earlier work of HMS Frobisher and the other fire support ships aids them greatly. Between them, the guns have taken much of the fight out of the German defenders. There are no organized counterattacks here. A and C troops cross the anti-tank ditch and join the action. The Commandos reach the dunes, stripped of every scrap of vegetation by the bombardments. The damaged gun pits are empty. The guns in the most recent aerial photographs prove, as at Point du Hoc, to be telegraph poles. The people of Ouistreham confirm it afterwards. The real 155mm guns were moved to their new casemates at Daimler only days before June 6, 1944. As the Commando reorganizes, the leading armoured vehicles, Royal Engineers, arrive to continue clearing Ouistreham. Lieutenant Nivet Carr finds a 2-wheeled horse-drawn cart in the assembly area, though without its horse. The 3-inch mortar bombs and both mortars go onto it. With relays of 6 men pulling, the troop sets off across country for the road bridge over the Caen Canal and the River Orne, east of Bénouville. Number 4. Commando takes a more direct route than the rest of the brigade. It finds ample evidence of that brigade's passage. Dead Germans lie everywhere, above all in the village of Saint-Aubin-d'Archenay. At one point, the dead include men of No. 6 Commandos' cycle troop. They have been ambushed and have fought it out where they were caught. Number 4. Commando reaches the bridges at 2000. Major Mende, now in command, has sent Lieutenant Gilchrist ahead. His task is to gather information and be ready to meet the unit. Gilchrist's advance party is Gilchrist alone, mounted on a folding parachute bicycle. He leaves his Bergen rucksack with his Batman, McCall. Mende's Batman, Macaulay, volunteers to carry Mende's as well. The 2 men bear it between them like a portable cot. The Commando pauses to regroup and break into small parties for the crossing. Nivet Carr lays a smokescreen from one of his mortars. Under it, he gets the cart and his men across without loss. A German aircraft drops a stick of bombs on the bridges. It causes no casualties. The rest of the troop crosses the River Orne bridge in turn. Then the evening breeze thins the smoke. With most of the Commando already over, mortar fire and sniping find the bridges. Lieutenant Mercer Wilson is hit. He is the only casualty of the crossing. Across the Orne, No. 4 Commando is the last element of 1st Special Service Brigade to arrive. With it in place, the brigade stands complete east of the river, under the command of 6th Airborne Division. But the march is not yet done. From the bridges, the Commando climbs onto the Amfreville Ridge. Its orders are to hold the village of Hauger, just north of Le Plain. The men are spent. They have stormed a fortified battery, fought through a town thick with snipers, and marched more than 14.5 kilometres under fire with crushing loads. Still, they press on through the darkness. They dig in at Hauger before dawn on June 7th, 1944. No unit landed across the beaches has marched further. For 1st Special Service Brigade, June 6, 1944, ends in a position that can hardly be called secure. Number 3. Commando is still detached. Number 4 Commando is still digging in. Number 45 Royal Marine Commando is isolated at Merville. A substantial gap remains between the brigade and the airborne troops on either side. In the early hours of June 7, 1944, the chance comes to bring Number 45 Royal Marine Commando in. It moves to positions south of Salonelles. The night passes quietly. At 3 o'clock, Number 3 Commando comes up from Le Bas de Ranville. It takes position along the Ranville to Salonelles Road, southwest of Amfreville. The unit holds the center of the brigade's line. It adds depth to the whole position. Its rear elements serve as Lord Lovat's reserve. Number 45 Royal Marine Commando is established on the ridge above Salonelles, so at last 1st Special Service Brigade stands concentrated in the very positions Lovat has argued for since planning began. The brigade stands to arms at 4:30, fully expecting an attack. The stand-to passes quietly. Night gives way to a lightening sky in the east, and the men wait. As the sun rises, so does the enemy's artillery fire from Breville Wood. No serious enemy attack develops along the Amfreville flank that morning. Major General Gale, commanding 6th Airborne Division, visits 1st Special Service Brigade. He arrives at brigade headquarters. He orders the brigade commander to clear the coastal defense belt at Franceville-Plage. The brigade guards the left flank of the Allied armies, he says, and that task requires Franceville-Plage to be silenced. It must be cleared at the least as far east as the road running northeast from Gonneville. Through June 7, 1944, 6th Airborne Division faces mounting pressure from the south. The 21st Panzer Division is concentrated east of Caen. The 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend has arrived west of the city. The fighting at Franceville-Plage and Merville keeps June 7th relatively quiet on the Amfreville Ridge itself. June 8th brings a different character. Determined counterattacks begin to develop against the Commandos, holding the eastern flank of the airborne lodgement. Over the preceding days, German troops from the 15th Army have moved west to reinforce the 711th Infantry Division. Now the seasoned infantry of the 346th Infantry Division arrive in strength. They have marched largely by night. They go straight into the attack. At 11:30, the 1st Special Service Brigade reports a heavy attack developing against No. 4 Commando. It comes from the east, in the area of Hauge and Salonelles. As night draws in, the attacks on the main commando position on the ridge mount again. This time, the enemy combines infiltration with heavy mortar and artillery fire. The main effort falls on No. 4 Commando on the left flank, at Hauge. Lieutenant William James's military cross citation records what follows. The enemy breaks through the position covering the Commando's left flank. It advances up a valley straight toward Commando headquarters. Only a handful of men hold it. James gathers what men he can and counterattacks at once. The enemy is estimated at platoon strength. With his small force, he advances and holds the thrust. He fires a Bren gun until its ammunition is gone. He takes up a rifle until that too runs dry. Then he picks up a Garand and keeps firing until a larger force reaches him and helps drive the enemy back. His action stops the position being overrun. It gives the base from which the counterattack that restores the line is launched. In the days that follow, the Germans try hard to dislodge the brigade. The key to the whole line is the high ground around Le Plain. On the coastal plain of the British sector, this ground matters beyond its size. Nowhere else do the hills rise above roughly 100 meters, not until the positions south of Gold Beach, around Saint-Léger. Hold Le Plain, and the eastern flank holds. This is where No. 4 Commando's own road ends. From here, the individual commandos of 1st Special Service Brigade fight less as separate units and more as one. That fight, from June 8th to the close of the Normandy campaign, we follow at the end of Episode 3. Each commando reaches the ridge by its own hard road. No. 4 has taken Ouistreham and marched furthest of all, but it does not march alone. On the same day, the rest of 1st Special Service Brigade fights its own way east, out of sight of this story. We turn back now to the afternoon of June 6, 1944, and to the bridges over the Orne. There the brigade is only beginning its advance, and No. 3 Commando has not yet reached the high ground at all. In theory, 6th Airborne Division holds the ground between the Orne bridges and the brigade's area on the extreme left flank of 2nd Army. In practice, it does not. Coming up out of the Orne Valley, the brigade crosses the edge of 3rd Parachute Brigade's drop zone N. It proves only marginally less dangerous than the march from the beach. The cycle troops of No. 6 Commando and No. 45 Royal Marine Commando lead the brigade from the bridges toward their objectives. No. 3 Commando's cycle element joins them by a different road. Heavy shelling and continuous sniping hold up the main body of No. 3 Commando at Colleville-sur-Orne. So 3 Troop goes forward on cycles alone. It crosses the bridges at 1400. Its orders are to help 9th Parachute Battalion holding outside Le Plain against stiff resistance. A combined attack goes in. At first, it fails. Then a flanking attack by 3 troop clears the village through the afternoon. Lord Lovat's plan does not survive contact. While Brigade Headquarters, No. 6 Commando and No. 45 Royal Marine Commando push for the high ground, a serious threat builds to the south of the airborne bridgehead. It is the 21st Panzer Division. The brigade report records what follows. The main body of No. 3 Commando reaches the bridges at roughly 15:30. On the instructions of 6th Airborne Division, it is diverted. It must take up a defensive position near Les Bas de Ranville and protect division headquarters. This makes the original plan impossible. The brigade commander decides to hold the line of high ground from Merville in the north to Breville in the south. No. 45, Royal Marine Commando, is ordered to go no further than Merville and to dig in there for the night. Brigade headquarters moves up to Ecard and sets up in a farm. No. 6, Commando mops up the southern end of Le Plain and consolidates. At Le Plain, elements of Lieutenant Colonel Otway's 9th Parachute Battalion are still fighting. By now they are reduced to 80 men. Holding the Amfreville Ridge is the option Lovat has always preferred. The decision takes no great deliberation. The logic of the ridge is straightforward. An enemy holding it could look out across the open fields of Drop Zone N. Those fields stretch from the foot of the ridge to within a few hundred meters of the Orne. In the brigade's hands, the ridge offers the reverse. The high ground is bocage. In the American sector, this hedgerow country runs some 48 kilometers south of Carentan. In the British sector, it comes in patches, gathered around villages and in valleys. One of the larger such areas sits on the ridge between the sea at Franceville-Plage and the Bois de Bavant to the south. It takes in most of the ground General Gale has assigned to the brigade. Here, fields of fire reach roughly 180 meters at most. Often, they are no more than 45 meters. That hampers both sides. But the ground favors the defender, as the Americans will learn at heavy cost further west. Handled with skill, the earthen banks give cover from fire. They make a defended position very hard for an attacker to find. The solid Norman stone houses and their cellars form strong redoubts. Around these, the commando troops build their positions, loose clusters of mutually supporting fire points. They suit the ground, and they suit the fluid, aggressive defense Lovat has argued for since planning began.
Teens share everything. That may include the bacteria that can cause meningococcal disease known as meningitis. Even if your teen's been vaccinated in the past, they could still be missing meningitis vaccinations. Ask your teen's doctor or visit meningitis.com today. Sponsored by GSK.
By 1530, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Young's men are largely across the river and the canal. Their cycle troop has already gone ahead to join 9th Parachute Battalion. 10 minutes later, the transport officer gets through with the first of the unit's jeeps. It is piled high with reserve ammunition. Almost certainly the first wheeled vehicle to reach the bridge from the beaches. A bulldozer follows, driven by a bad-tempered sapper. A lost Royal Army Service Corps truck comes behind it. The 1st Infantry of 3rd Infantry Division do not reach the bridge until 2000 hours. Then 6th Airborne Division orders No. 3 Commando south to Les Bas de Ranville. Lord Lovat is not pleased. The order is to bolster the thin line of airborne troops facing a growing armoured threat, the 21st Panzer Division pressing since dawn. What General Gale does not yet know is that by mid-afternoon, most of the panzers have been turned away from 6th Airborne Division. They are swinging south around Caen to strike at the Sword and Juno landings. The order stands regardless. Number 3, Commando digs in to protect General Gale's headquarters in the Chateau. The afternoon and evening of June 6, 1944, pass without heavy fighting, but the position gives the men a clear view of what unfolds around them. Young records that within 2 hours of taking position, 4 German tanks are reported on the rising ground to the south. Airborne Division 3-inch mortars engage them, and they withdraw. At the same time, HMS Serapis fires 20 rounds into German infantry seen digging in on the forward edge of a wood. In the late afternoon, Headquarters 6th Airborne Division calls Lovat by radio. It asks whether he can clear the Merville battery back in action against Sword Beach. He replies that he can, but that he needs No. 3 Commando returned to do it. There is no reply. The defense of divisional headquarters plainly counts for more than a battery firing on the beach. No. 3 Commando is relieved of its task at last. 3 things ease the pressure. The threat from the 21st Panzer Division falls away. The Horsa gliders of the Air Landing Brigade fly in on the 2nd Airborne lift of the day, and the 1st Battalion, Royal Ulster Rifles, arrives from the landing zones at roughly 2300. In the darkness, the Commando sets off across the landing zone toward the Amfreville Ridge. Through the darkness, No. 3 Commando crosses the landing zone and climbs onto the Amfreville Ridge. By 3 o'clock on June 7, 1944, it takes position along the Ranville to Salinelles Road, southwest of Amfreville. The unit holds the center of the brigade's line and forms Lord Lovat's reserve. With the last commandos in place, 1st Special Service Brigade stands concentrated at last in the positions Lovat has argued for since the planning began. The brigade stands to arms at 4:30, expecting an attack. The stand-to passes quietly. Night gives way to a lightening sky in the east, and the men wait. As the sun rises, so does the enemy's artillery fire from Breville Wood. Before dawn, the Batterie de Merville comes back to life. Its story on D-Day belongs to an earlier chapter of this history, and that chapter is the authority. Lieutenant Colonel Otway's 9th Parachute Battalion dropped 600 strong in the darkness. Barely 150 reached the battery wire. Around 50 of them never left it. Against every expectation, the survivors took the guns, but the sappers and the demolition charges were lost in the drop. The paras could only damage the guns, not destroy them. The weapons inside were not the heavy naval guns the briefings had promised. They were older field guns. Whether they could ever have torn apart the landing craft is a question without a clean answer. What matters is that they stayed silent through the landings. Late on June 6th, a patrol confirmed the battery still out of action. The guns had not fired on the beaches. The battalion had done what it came to do. Then before dawn, on June 7th, the Germans slip back. Stabsfeldwebel Buskott leads his men from hiding into the casemates. They work on the guns the paras had damaged. The battery begins answering fire missions again. Its commander, Lieutenant Steiner, directs it from an observation post within the Franceville plage defences. From there, he looks out over the Sword approaches beyond Ouistreham. Whatever the true weight of the guns, a battery firing on the invasion beaches cannot be left in action. Each time Steiner calls for fire, naval salvos answer. The battery sits on a ridge, its flashes and smoke easy to spot. After each bombardment, it falls silent. Buskott, the gun position officer, calls Steiner again and again, begging him to stop. The battery makes its own case for destruction. No. 45 Royal Marine Commando is committed entirely to the capture of Franceville plage and has no reserve to spare. So the task falls to Number 3 Commando, the Brigade Reserve, which has seen the least action of any unit so far. The order that begins the planning is terse. The second in command is to take 2 troops and support Number 45 Royal Marine Commando in the attack on Franceville Plage. Major John Pooley is to silence the Merville guns with 4 troop and 5 troop. Young knows that demolishing guns takes explosives. He goes to brigade headquarters to ask whether the engineer troop can supply any. The visit yields nothing. There are no explosives. Why 6th Airborne Division has made no provision, Gale's headquarters does not say. It is possible Gale still hopes to dominate the ground his own way rather than simply destroy the guns. The Commando is not yet committed, so Young decides to follow the 2 troops toward Merville. The map tells him the detachment will be out on a limb, so it proves. He sets off in Pooley's footsteps, with Ned Moore, Sergeant Spears, the medical sergeant, Corporal Christopher, and a wireless operator. Pooley leads his 2 troops through Hauger and around the outskirts of Salonelles toward Merville. Mortar fire causes casualties on the approach. It destroys 2 of the jeeps carrying ammunition and wounded. The plan sends 4 troop to a position at roughly 180 meters range. From there, it is to fire across the wire, the minefield, and the anti-tank ditch and fix the enemy's attention. Pooley takes his old troop, 5 troop, around to the southeast corner to attack from that direction. During this move, in thick hedgerow country, Young comes east along a track. Unexpectedly, he finds himself at the rear of 4 troop. The troop has already taken casualties and does not look happy. It does not know where 5 troop is. Then 5 troop appears, charging into the battery from the far side. With 4 troop giving covering fire, Pooley leads 5 troop across the open ground, bayonets fixed. He carries only a pistol. The double belt of barbed wire that might have stopped them has been torn open in places by the Paras attack and the naval bombardment the day before. The minefield is another matter. Pooley makes a cold decision and leads the men straight through it. They cross with 3 men wounded. Young follows, threading the minefield on a narrow path the garrison has been using, and not without misgiving. He has just entered the battery when Pooley runs past him, carrying a captured German stick grenade. Few Germans are left inside. The repeated bombardments have made it no place for anyone not needed to man the guns. Those who remain in the casemates are resolute and hold out for some time. Pooley directs the clearing of the casemates and the reorganization. 4 troop comes through the minefield on the same path. Captain Brian Butler is sent forward to clear and hold a group of houses on the far side of the battery. Corporal Arthur Chivers is with Pooley through the clearance. Young later records that by this point there have been a few shots, but the serious fighting seems over. Pooley and Chivers approach casemate number 4 and go through it, dealing with the Germans inside. As they enter a trench at the rear, a bullet strikes Pooley in the head, fired from the top of the bunker behind them. He dies almost at once. The shot comes from a surviving Spandau gunner in the Tobruk stand built into the roof of the casemate. Young is told Pooley is dead and moves toward casemate number 4. He finds Alan Pollock, a young subaltern of 5 troop, already attacking the position alone, a gammon bomb in his hand. Angry and distressed, as everyone is, Pollock exposes himself with no apparent care for his own safety. He gets in close to the gun and throws the bomb in. Still unsure whether the man inside is dead, several commandos climb onto the grassed roof of the casemate and drop Mills bombs down the air vent. The survivors reorganize in the lane on the eastern side. a patrol goes out to find No. 45 Royal Marine Commando in Merville, the unit they are meant to be working with. There is no sign of them. No. 45 is fighting some distance away, in Franceville-Plage. The number of Germans the patrol meets makes the danger plain. It is only a matter of time before 4 and 5 troops, already thinned by casualties, are surrounded and overrun. Young's assessment is blunt. The detachment is far from its own lines. Resupply is all but impossible. There is nothing more it can do to the battery. The right course is to get the men out. Leaving Butler to consolidate, Young goes to explain to the brigadier. He finds Lovat at brigade headquarters at a card. Lovat listens and at once agrees the detachment must be withdrawn. The withdrawal proves costlier than the approach or the attack. German reinforcements are arriving and pushing west. 4 and 5 troops take far more casualties getting back than they did going in. The fighting patrol under Lieutenant Williams, sent to cover the withdrawal, runs into trouble. Williams is knocked out. Corporal Underwood is killed. Sergeant Port and a private are cut off. They hide for hours before they are captured. The roughly 3.2 kilometres back to the brigade's lines is a long withdrawal in contact. Every rearward move is coordinated with care. Each group covers the next as it falls back, hedgerow by hedgerow. 4 and 5 troops rejoin the rest of No. 3 Commando at roughly 2100, at about half their strength. The rest of the Commando moves up onto the ridge to reinforce the front line. 4 and 5 troops, 12 hours in action, are left in reserve. June 7th passes without a major assault on the ridge itself. The fighting is out at the coast at Franceville-Plage and Merville, where No. 3's own 2 troops have bled. June 8th, 1944, brings a different character. Determined counterattacks develop against the Commandos holding the eastern flank of the airborne lodgment. Over the preceding days, German troops from the 15th Army have moved west to reinforce the 711th Infantry Division. Now the seasoned infantry of the 346th Infantry Division arrive in strength. They have marched largely by night. They go straight into the attack. German infantry comes searching across the brigade area with fighting patrols. Artillery concentrations go before them, probing for a weak point in the line. Elsewhere, there is steady mortaring. Where the Germans find a target, the guns join in. Some troops are caught in the open under heavy shelling. Trenches are blown in and left unusable. With no regard for his own safety, Evans leaves his slit trench and moves among his section, steadying the men. The shelling gives way to probing attacks. They grow in strength through the morning. At 9:45, the brigade's units are warned that a battalion-strength attack is coming. The well-concealed commando positions, backed by artillery and naval gunfire, halt each attack before it reaches close quarters. No. 3 Commando is attacked from the direction of Merville. By 10:45 reports reach Young's headquarters from 6th Troop. Enemy infantry is advancing astride the Longuemare Road. John Alderson calls for artillery support. A naval bombardment officer with HMS Hunter at his call has already joined 6th Troop. A Vickers machine gun goes forward and a sergeant to observe for the 3-inch mortar section. 5 minutes later, a field regiment is ranging on the ground in front of 6th Troop. By 11:30, the weight of the assault is plain along the whole line. This is no local probe. The 346th Infantry Division has come against the entire eastern flank at once. The pressure runs from No. 3's ground in the south to the Commandos at Hauge in the north. Firepower alone is not enough. The Commandos must convince the Germans they face a stronger force than they do, and they must clear enemy troops who have worked into close positions, often from the hedgerow directly opposite. Lance Corporal Hodgson shows great courage on a reconnaissance patrol. He deliberately draws enemy fire to locate the position. Once it is found, it can be dealt with. Sergeant Leach earns a bar to his military medal in the counterattacks around Merville Wood. He leads his section with great determination, kills several of the enemy himself, and takes many prisoners. Wounded during the action, he leads on until the task is done. Young describes the final phase with evident satisfaction. The Commandos advance by rushes, laying down withering fire between each bound. 1 2-inch mortar is fired at point-blank range, its base plate against a tree. It is as dangerous to their own side as to the enemy, Young admits. But the effect on German morale makes the risk worthwhile. While 6 troop drives the enemy back, another troop pushes down a track to get behind them. It goes too far and comes under fire from a house. George Herbert is not an officer who stays pinned down. In a way those around him know well, he shouts to his men to go in. He charges through the gate with a Bren gun, firing from the hip, Forsyth and one other man at his side.
Still waiting in line? Again? That's time you'll never get back. Save time and money with Stamps.com. Over 4 million businesses have skipped the line with Stamps.com. Join them to save up to 90% off carrier rates from your computer or phone right now. Print postage for certified mail, registered mail, and packages in seconds. Then schedule a pickup right from your home or office. For a limited time, go to Stamps.com and use code PODCAST for a free welcome gift. Taxes and fees apply.
And that concludes today's episode. The Germans are beaten by firepower and by the offensive spirit that keeps the Commandos driving forward when a less aggressive force would have stopped. Through the afternoon, the enemy's determination fades. In the days that follow, the Germans keep trying to break the brigade loose from the ridge. They do not succeed. The key to the whole line is the high ground around Le Plain and Amfreville. On the coastal plain of the British sector, this ground matters beyond its height. Nowhere else do the hills rise above roughly 100 meters, not until the country south of Gold Beach, around Saint-Léger. Hold this ridge, and the eastern flank holds. This is where No. 3 Commando's own road through D-Day and its aftermath comes to rest. It reached the bridge's last of the fighting units. It was turned aside to guard a headquarters while others pushed for the high ground. It lost half of 2 troops in a second attack on the Merville guns. Yet by the evening of June 8th, it stands firm on the ridge, its part in holding the line complete. From here, the individual stories give way to a single one. No. 4, Commando, No. 3 Commando, and the Marines of the brigade no longer fight their separate battles. They hold one line as one force through the long weeks of the Normandy campaign still to come. That fight, the defense of the ridge, the taking of Merville, and the grinding advance that follows, we will follow at the close of Episode 3. A word on where this history comes from. An episode like this rests on the work of those who fought and those who later set the record down, and it is only right to name them. From Charles Messenger comes Commandos, the definitive history of commando operations in the Second World War, a sweeping account of the Green Beret from Norway to the Far East. From Tim Saunders, a former British Army officer turned battlefield historian, comes Commandos and Rangers, D-Day operations, which walks the ground of these very actions. From James Ladd comes Commandos and Rangers of World War II. Long a standard work on how these units were raised, trained, and sent into battle. And 2 accounts stand closer still to the fighting itself. Donald Gilchrist served as an officer in No. 4 Commando, and his book, The Commandos, D-Day and After, first published under the title Don't Cry for Me, carries the voice of a man who was there. You have met him in this very episode, Jeff Steele's From Dunkirk to D-Day. A Commandos War follows one soldier, Bill Adlam of No. 4 Commando, from his escape at Dunkirk in 1940 to the sands of Normandy 4 years later. A reminder that behind the great sweep of the invasion stand individual men, each with a story. To these authors and to the veterans whose memories they preserved, we owe our thanks. The history of the Commandos endures because men took the trouble to write it down, and because others take the trouble to read it. If this account has held your attention, seek out these books. They carry far more than any single episode can hold, and there is more to come. Over the parts ahead, we stay with Lord Lovat's Commandos on the high ground east of the Orne. We return to the morning of June 7th, 1944, and follow No. 6 Commando and No. 45 Royal Marine Commando, each in its turn, through the defense of the ridge in the days after the crossing, and at the last, the 4 units become one. We follow the whole brigade, holding the line and taking Merville through the grinding weeks of the Normandy campaign still to come. For maps, photographs, original documents, and the full source base behind this series, please visit www.worldwar2-sof.com. You have been listening to the Special Forces in World War II podcast. I am your host, Michael Wires, signing off. And that concludes this mission briefing, fellow warriors of knowledge. We've navigated through the trenches of information, delving deep into the battlefields of history. As we wrap up this episode in our campaign for understanding, remember that knowledge is your most potent weapon. Stay vigilant and keep sharpening your intellectual arsenal. We'll rendezvous again for another episode, continuing our relentless pursuit of enlightenment. Until then, keep your mind sharp, your curiosity burning, and your determination unwavering. Simultaneously, you are hereby alerted to our outposts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, fortifying our information dissemination. Should you possess any pertinent intelligence to bolster our mission, transmit your findings with no hesitation. Your contributions shall be prominently acknowledged within the operational archives. Furthermore, for those prepared to provide substantial reinforcement, navigate to our Patreon forward base and enlist. Your support is integral to sustaining our forward thrust. Carry forth the legacy. Dismissed.